Welcome to the second episode of The Heights of Humanity. In this episode, I'll be sitting down with Cole Hastings. Cole is a content creator, author, entrepreneur, and outspoken vegan who is most known for making self-improvement videos where he shares his tools for success and philosophical insights online. Cole is one of the biggest names in the self-improvement genre right now, with over 640,000 subscribers and 52 million total views on YouTube. In addition to his YouTube channel, he hosts The Hastings Harvest, a podcast where he interviews bright entrepreneurs like himself. Cole is also diving into the world of filmmaking, with his new short film currently under production. Expect to hear about masculinity in the modern age, how to gain muscle without eating meat, the best way to improve focus, and more. Now, without further ado, what does success mean to you? You know, when Cole Hastings strives for success, what is it that you're striving for?
Success for me isn't so much about wealth, although I think wealth can be a good indicator of how much work someone's put in and how much value they've given to the world. Success to me is you're currently in the process of doing something that you enjoy doing that brings you a lot of fulfillment in life. You're not exactly, there's an end goal to it potentially, but what really matters is that you are in the process of becoming the person you want to be or getting to the life that you want to be at. So you don't even necessarily have to be at the usual metric for success. To me, it's like if you're in the process of getting there, if you've already figured that out, then I think you've made it in terms of success.
Mm-hmm. It's like if you're on the journey, then you are successful. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because, I mean, I feel like most people, even by the time they're 80, don't really know who they are, what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
They never took the time to figure it out, and they were always letting other people decide that for them. And so someone who's already figured that out and thinks at least that they have a good idea of it, and they find each day that they wake up, almost every single day that they wake up, is fulfilling and they're happy with what they're doing the majority of the day, then you're successful.
Okay. Yeah. Did it take you some time to come to that, or did you like start trying to be the person you wanted to be and you're like, I feel successful? Where did that come from?
When I first started on the YouTube journey and content creator, which is my big thing right now,
Mm-hmm.
no, I don't think I did feel like, oh, I'm successful. I wish I would have understood it back then, what I've just said now, what I define success as. But back then, I was definitely doing the things I was doing more so from a place of lacking, from
Okay.
like, I need to get to this point or else I'm going to feel like a failure. I'm not going to have high self-worth. So when I first started, no, I don't think I felt successful until I actually got there and saw the metrics, the views, the likes, the high engagement, and everything start to come.
Okay. At what point were the metrics, really like, at what point was it like, oh shit, like I can make a career out of this, like this is awesome. Like,
Yeah. I mean, I always knew I could make a career out of it, even when I first started and I was making $0. But when I was first like, okay, this is actually like a decent bit of money, it was probably late 2020. My channel finally started blowing up. I started in 2017. It really started to take off late 2020. That was when I was like, this is more money than I've ever seen in my bank account at once in my entire life. In 1 month, I'm making, it's insane. So, yeah, a lot of it was based on the views and everything and the revenue I was making. That's how I felt like, okay, I'm finally making a career out of this.
Mhm. And were you like always kind of like that thinking kid, or like what drove you to, I want to share my philosophies on the internet. I want to, show how I'm bettering my life on the internet.
What led to that?
Yeah.
I don't know if I was much of a thinking kid most of my life. I can't. I don't recall a lot of my young adolescent days, and the most I recall is stuff that I put in my videos, like everything that I've talked about in my videos. That's like the bulk of what I remember. Um, what was the question again?
Yeah, so like, um, I guess like you started out with wanting to make, maybe like it wasn't self improvement at the time, but you were definitely making videos about, improving your life. And I know at the start it was a lot of like, vegan gains and all the gym stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, was there like a shift at some point where you were like really starting to dial in your life,
Mm-hmm.
or were you always kind of this person that really liked to improve their life and grow, and then like once you got to YouTube, that's you kind of followed that.
Mm. No, I think the majority of my life I was kind of a degenerate, at least teenage years. Maybe when I was a kid, and I don't remember, I really liked to read and draw, and I was a deep thinker, but I would say once cliques formed in school and people started caring about their appearance and everything that happens when you're a young teenager, that's when I feel like I stopped thinking about what do I really want? How do I want to live my life? Well, as a kid, you do that intuitively. But I turned all that off and went, how can I get other people to like me? And how can I just fit in?
Mm-hmm.
So, as a teenager, majority of my teenage years were spent binge drinking and smoking weed and saying yes to things even if I didn't want to say yes to them. And I didn't really care about my schoolwork. I did really terrible in high school for the first couple years of high school when I really didn't care and didn't care what college I got into, didn't see it as having a point at all. I failed English class one quarter, got like D's and C's, and was really just not a good student. I didn't care about working hard at all. I didn't care about improving myself at all. I didn't see the point in it at all. And partly that was partly because I didn't feel I was capable of improving. Uh, those are just beliefs that I had built up from external influences and external stimulus that told me I'm not good enough and I'm stupid and I'm not capable of improving. So, yeah, I would say the teenage years I didn't I didn't feel good enough most of the teenage years. And then when I started to take school seriously, I think this was my first like time where I realized like, oh, maybe I actually am capable of doing something good with my life.
Yeah.
When it was junior year in high school is when I started to realize how important it is to get into a good college and everything. And I wanted to take my life seriously. And I got like straight A's the one quarter that I finally started to try. And that like told me, okay, well, maybe I'm not a fucking idiot. Like if I just actually give it my all in life,
Yeah.
I could actually do something. And then I started learning like coding. I went to school for computer science. So I later changed that. But all during that time was when I started to like realize like I'm capable of something more.
Yeah.
Self-improvement didn't come into the picture until sophomore year of college. When I started to get into spirituality and kind of just like dissolving the ego and being more present, doing a lot of meditation, that eventually led me to like just general self-improvement rather than spirituality, the spiritual stuff, being one with everything. And I read a lot of books during that time, and my YouTube channel actually started as a self-improvement channel, and then it transitioned to the vegan fitness stuff that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And then it transitioned back to self-improvement because I realized there's like an outer boundary with fitness content where it's like, what else can I possibly make about fitness?
Okay.
It's like there wasn't enough. I wasn't able to flex my creativity enough with self-improvement. I feel like I can talk about almost anything related to self-improvement. With fitness, it's like full day of eating, full day of eating, full day of eating, workout plan, full day of eating, full day of eating. It's like I wanted to expand that,
Mm-hmm.
and now I'm getting off on a tangent, but that's how I got
No,
back
man.
into self
Yeah, yeah.
improvement.
You're good. Um, Now, I do you watch a lot of like other self-improvement content or because I listened to a few of the most recent episodes of your podcast, and I remember you mentioned that you don't like to put your um like you don't like to watch a lot of other creators in your kind of field or niche on YouTube because you want your ideas to be yours,
Mm-hmm.
right? So um, where do a lot of these ideas come from? You know, are you reading a lot of books? Are you um,
Mm-hmm.
is it anecdotal? You know.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't like to watch a lot of self improvement content. I think
Mhm.
the end goal, or the end goal for anybody who watches my content, also who's listening to this, should be that one day you no longer feel like you need to watch me, unless you just fuck with me and you like watching my content, you find it entertaining, or it's just like, I don't know, maybe something really sticks out to you like a title or thumbnail and you think this would really help you. But you should be able to get to the point where you don't have to consume self-improvement content. And as a creator, I don't think you should be consuming a lot of it after a certain point, because like you said, that I said, I do want my videos to feel like they aren't being influenced by the rest of the niche. So I'll get a lot of my ideas from philosophy books. I read a lot of philosophy. I listen to philosophy audiobooks. But I feel like the most lessons I've drawn from the past couple years are just
Mhm.
life experiences.
Yeah.
I try to put myself in as many experiences as possible
Mhm.
and reflect on them, so that way I have my own stories to tell within self improvement
Mhm.
and my own unique perspective to give to people, which
Yeah.
I think is really important, because I mean, most self improvement ideas and advice is pretty much the same. And I'm not saying mine's like totally different, because
Mhm.
I don't think it is. But the way I present things is, I would like to say, usually different.
No, yeah, I would give yourself a pat on the back. I think your content is really a breath of fresh air when you look at just how, like, if I search up self-improvement on YouTube, I'm gonna get a bunch of hyper masculine, high octane, you're
Yeah.
broke kind of content. And yours is very, there's a lot of critical thinking, you're thinking very deeply, all the ideas are very positive, and like if I was like say like a woman and I wanted to improve myself and I looked up self-improvement and I watched your videos, sure it's like a lot of it is tailored towards young men, but
Mhm.
I can get a lot of lessons there too because a lot of it is very general
Yes.
and very philosophic. Um, why do you think self-improvement is so associated with like the red pill and these hyper masculine internet celebrities and things like that?
Uh, I think they're just the most controversial, polarizing, engaging people on the internet. And those guys don't give 100% bad advice. Like, a lot of the times I'll listen to the stuff they say and I'll be like, okay, that's actually a good point. But the reason it's so enticing is just because it's so 100% or 0% black and white. And it's very easy for people to engage with that type of content, because it doesn't require a lot of like work to understand it, first of all, which makes the barrier to entry very easy.
Yeah.
But also because, like I said, they're saying shit that is so out of pocket
Yeah.
that people are going to share it, and it's gonna be the thing that's most shared.
Mm-hmm.
Because when they do give good advice, it's like the most simple of advice,
Yeah.
just like work hard and take care of yourself. But when they give the most ridiculous of advice, it's like it's so easy to to want to engage in it because it triggers people.
Yeah.
So that's like the first step for young men to see. And young men, I believe, care more about self improvement
Mm-hmm.
than women,
Mm-hmm.
to be honest. Like, I just think men's value, most of men's value in the world is derived from how useful they are,
Yeah.
from their utility. So men want to naturally understand, how do I be more useful? Like, how do I become a more valuable person? And the natural journey is to start looking up self-improvement type of
Mm-hmm.
content. And that's the first stuff that comes up because it's the most engaging. So I think that's that's why those figures are usually the most prominent, because it's so easy to share that stuff
Yeah.
and understand it and be triggered by it,
Mm-hmm.
whether positively or negatively.
Yeah. Um, what like kind of more on masculinity. I remember you talking about kind of like a lot of people want to go back to traditional values, right? You want to go back to this traditional family structure, this traditional idea of masculinity, but why would you use yesterday's solutions for today's problems, you know?
Right.
And so seeing all of these like hyper masculine, Andrew Tate, Hamza S people on the internet gaining so many followers, um, what is your ideal version of masculinity? Like,
I think it's just an evolved version of traditional masculinity.
okay.
So I think there is a lot of great things, like I've said in my videos, about traditional masculinity. It makes you feel like you have a purpose when you're providing for somebody, and you like, it's required for you to live up to a certain ideal. And this ideal was much stricter than it is now. Now men can do a lot of different things and be men. And so it's very easy path to follow. And paradoxically or ironically, the less freedom that they had back then, it's like the less decisions you have to make, and it's like, okay, I'll just follow this and I'll have a purpose in life.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's a little bit harder for men and anybody to feel like they have purpose, because there's so many different ideals you can follow, ideologies on the internet and everything about what's the best way to live. So I think like that strictness is good, but it was almost too strict back then, because I think men, everybody wants to express themselves a little bit more than just wearing a certain type of clothes, having a certain type of haircut, acting in a certain type of way that men are supposed to act. Especially with traditional masculinity, it's like never show your emotions, and I think we can evolve past that. Masculinity should involve in the emotional aspect of it. I think men need to understand appropriate times to express emotions. Like, I think having a place where men can express their emotions safely is really important, and integrating that into like the more traditional aspects would be really good, instead of suppressing your anger or your sadness and then taking it out secretly on someone else or something else.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm sure men used to beat their wives a lot more
Yeah.
back, let's say 100 years ago, because it was just socially accepted. That's something we can improve upon, right?
For sure.
So of the emotional aspect, I think men need to get more in tune with their emotions, and that doesn't mean when people hear that they think it's being more emotional. It's not. It's understanding your emotions, giving them a healthy outlet, because I think you're never not going to feel angry or sad or upset sometimes. You just have to learn how to deal with those things in a healthy way, not
Mm-hmm.
just like, oh, you're not supposed to cry because you're a man. You're not supposed to be angry. You got to fucking stay under control. Like
Mm-hmm.
me, I'm like, no, cry, get angry,
Mm-hmm.
but don't, but learn how to process it by yourself and express it in a way that doesn't harm other people.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's like the more emotional aspect of it. But I think like also social norms around how men should dress, right? Like, is a man, he's dressing like he's gay or has a dress on. It's funny. There's like a meme on the internet right now. There's TikToks. It's like, if people are starting to accuse you of being gay by your fit, that means you're starting to actually dress right. Something like that, which is funny. And it's a good way of things like that becoming more socially accepted. I think men can wear a lot more things, and that's fine. I don't like the whole idea of having a very strict wardrobe around what men should wear. I don't know. It's a little outdated to me. I'm trying to think of other aspects of traditional masculinity. Basically, there just needs to be more freedom of expression with both genders, I think. But I want to say, like, almost not too much, because I don't know, if everybody's allowed to do anything they want, we have no roles whatsoever in society. I think societies will collapse if that happens. So I'm trying to think of other things with masculinity. I think all the great things about being mentally tough, about working hard on yourself, providing for other people, building things, just naturally wanting to improve and become the best version of yourself so that you can serve other people better. These are all amazing things that are traditionally associated with masculinity.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
It's just the things like that are obviously problems about traditional masculinity that we can improve upon. It's really that simple. And there really are people in this world who think masculinity is toxic, which is, if you actually knew what masculinity was and how much good, like, strong, positive masculine traits bring to the world, you wouldn't be saying that. Yeah. But I think when people think say masculinity is toxic, they're thinking beating their wives, dominating people all the time, feeling the need to be very egoic and power over others all the time. That's what they think of when they think of masculinity. But so many great things about what masculinity is traditionally considered to be.
Yeah. I think people get a lot of that idea of toxic masculinity because, I mean, there's just a lot of men with wounded egos. Yeah. And when you have a wounded ego, you want to make the people around you feel small so that you feel bigger. Right.
It's just insecure, totally unactualized men.
Yeah. And to that point about expression and processing emotions, I can kind of draw a parallel. Do you know who Ryan Holiday is?
Yes.
Yeah, he talks about, like, stoicism is it's not feeling emotion. It's not the absence of emotion. It's the domestication of emotion.
I like that.
It's like,
I like that word.
I'm gonna feel sad, but, like, I'm still gonna go take care of business. Like, if I'm going through a breakup, then, like, yeah, I'm gonna feel sad, and I'm not gonna deny that I'm gonna feel sad. But
yes,
like, I'm also gonna try to channel this into something positive so that the people around me can grow.
Right. Definitely.
Let me check this camera. I'm kind of paranoid.
Yeah. I'm the same way.
Okay, cool.
When I'm recording.
It's just like the seed is planted in the back of your mind, and you're just all right.
You'll be thinking about it the entire time.
For sure, dude. Yeah. Can we talk about the short film?
Sure.
So, I know we talked about it a little bit earlier, but for the audience, could you explain a little bit, what you're doing and what the general picture of what it's going to be about?
Yeah. So, the longer that I make videos, the more I realize, like, making films something serious with, like, a whole narrative behind it would be really fun. YouTube videos are great, but I just want to completely visually tell a story and have actual actors in it in different settings. That's, like, the next step for me as a creator. I don't know how often I'm going to be able to make these because they're a lot of investment of time, resources, and money.
Mm-hmm.
But this one, for my first one, it's going to be loosely based off of my success with YouTube, but instead, the main character is going to become a successful writer after many trials and tribulations and failures instead of a successful YouTuber. And it's based around this character while he's in college, and he has this friend group who he hangs out with who are like typical like frat guys. And they just drink every weekend and they don't really have a purpose, and they, you know, like they just fuck around. And these are all like his best friends, but after one of those nights of drinking, when he comes back from college for, it's either Labor Day or Memorial Day weekend, whatever is in September, he meets up with his one friend who actually takes his life seriously and has like not an intervention, but like his one friend's like, hey, like I remember you as a kid and how smart you were and how adventurous you were. Like, don't you think about what you want to do with the rest of your life and all this? And then the main character kind of brushes him off and gets defensive because he's insecure, and he deep down he knows he's right, but he doesn't want to admit it, so he gets like all defensive. But he eventually those words pierce him, and he starts writing on the internet. And I tell this story in kind of a non-linear storytelling way, similar to The Social Network, if you've ever seen that movie, where the whole story is going to be, or most parts of the story are going to be narrated over by future Cole, already successful Cole. During a podcast episode with Danny Miranda, he's going to act in it. So it's going to start off with me in the middle of a podcast episode after the success.
Okay.
And then I'm going to tell the story from the future. And it'll go back and forth between, well, I guess it's present day. Yeah. Present day successful Cole during the podcast and the stories that he's telling on the podcast. That's what you're going to see of the story of how he got there.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited. There's a lot of moving parts. It's the biggest project I've ever done by far. And next week we're shooting it over 5 days. And I think it'll be really, really fun. It will be really fun, I know, no matter what. It'll be a big learning experience. Yeah. And just want to make it one of the best self-improvement videos of all time on YouTube.
Yeah, it sounds very grand. I'm excited. I'm excited to watch it. Did that, like, making a short film, how has that changed how you're making content now? Are you looking to make, longer, quality over quantity kind of content now that you're making a short film? And or are you going to, keep YouTube the same and then, release the short film and it's like your big magnum opus project,
No, I think things will stay the same, and then every once in a while I'll have one of these very big projects. But I think my venture into learning about filmmaking and becoming obsessed with it has bled into my videos recently, even just like in the past half a year. I try to incorporate more like filmmaking techniques into things, and I'm buying anamorphic lenses, which are typically used in films, which, brief description in layman's term, is like an anamorphic lens is basically a lens that squeezes the image when you shoot it, and then you have to de-squeeze it in an editing software. And when you do, it's just way wider. So that's why you see most films, modern day films, have a very like a widescreen aspect ratio, because they're usually shot on anamorphic film or on anamorphic lenses. Yeah. And these lenses produce like these interesting, you ever see like blue flares in movies?
I have.
It goes past a light. Like that's probably because of an anamorphic lens. And the bokeh, which is just the blur in the background of a scene, it's got a very distinct look that, because you're de-squeezing the footage, it creates this oval-like bokeh. So like if I was to shoot you and the lights were in the background,
Yep.
the blur of the lights, it wouldn't be circular, it would be like oval. So it's almost like an oval stretched out blurriness in the background that looks, it's very distinct. If I
Yeah.
showed you like comparison, if I put two scenes side by side of an anamorphic versus regular lens, you'd be able to tell right away. And it's usually only used in films, but now these prosumer cameras that everyone has, and they're just innovating on anamorphic lenses to the point where they're literally this big and they weigh less than a regular lens.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane. So what you can do now in YouTube videos with just a setup that's literally this big that you're holding with two hands
Yeah.
instead of a whole fucking filmmaking rig
Yeah.
is absurd.
Yeah.
So doing more of that kind of stuff, it's just a matter of getting out of my house and figuring out what to film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember you talking about part of your thought process is like walking around town and being like, this would be great B-roll.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you still have that on? And like, are you, when you're walking around, like,
Not nearly as much.
okay.
I think very rarely now.
Yeah.
I'm glad for the most part. I'm really glad that I feel like I'm in the point where I'm privileged enough to not think about that all the time. When I was really trying to like finally make things successful and make enough income, that's all I could think about was, what's the next video going to be? How can I film this? Oh, I should have brought my camera.
Yeah.
Now, my life is much more balanced than it was back then.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very grateful for that. So, no, I do not always think about B-roll 24/7. I can actually live life outside of YouTube.
How exactly do you balance your life more than back then? Because I remember you talking about it, and you said you made a lot more balance. But what are the exact ways that you did that?
I will say, I still don't really. I'm gonna be completely honest.
Mm-hmm.
But well, first off, one day a week is solely dedicated to hanging out with my girlfriend.
Okay.
Sometimes we'll hang out 2 days a week though. Having a girlfriend has really helped.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm finally focusing on things outside of my work, and I have a reason, like a very large reason to. I think when I moved to Austin as well, the weather's nicer, which gives you more of an incentive to just go outside and hang out.
Mm-hmm.
I also just made a lot of friends here that are great and that are kind of doing similar things to me, but we can hang out and have similar lifestyles and connect in that way, but not talk about our lifestyles. Just hang out, which is nice to have. And then people who don't have similar lifestyles at all, I think every entrepreneur or like high performing person should have those types of friends to help keep them grounded in reality. Because not everything's about work sometimes, and it's nice to just have friends who are, normal, not thinking about work all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps you level headed, I think.
Nice counterbalance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think Austin's just really helped. I started prioritizing sleep way more.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no matter what, no matter how late it is, I will at least be in bed, or at least be in bed for ideally like 8.5 hours.
Did that coincide with the Whoop, or?
I think the Whoop helped a little bit. This wristband that me and Jason both wear.
No, we're not sponsored by Whoop, but I am very open if Whoop would like to contact me.
As well. Well, I got to figure that out. It shows you how much you're sleeping and everything, so I think that gives you more of an incentive to want to sleep better. Also, like I said, I feel like, I don't know, I have more of the privilege to, if I need one extra day to make a final edit or get a sponsorship fully confirmed, etc., I'm like, okay, I have enough backlog of videos. Nothing's gonna happen if I take one extra day. Like,
Yeah.
I'm here. I've made it. Okay. Like, you can finally stop if you need an extra day to rest or do things right and not fucking push. It's okay because like I'm already here.
Yeah.
And so I've had that mindset as well, which I believe is a privilege to have. Could I have done that before and still gotten this successful? Probably. But it's easier when you know, like, you're for sure, like, nobody's gonna even wonder where you are.
Yeah.
If you take extra days and you're financially comfortable enough to not worry, it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems to me like you were driving with the blinders on, just like laser focused on moving ahead, and then you you passed the finish line, but you were like you couldn't see that you passed it because you're driving with the blinders on, and then you kept going and going. You're starting to run out of gas, and then like, fuck, dude, I gotta go like to the gas station. I gotta go rest, and you went through this journey of like taking the blinders off. But yeah, I find that the same thing where like I'm like super just like trying to go through school and like trying to pour all my emotions into like work and like getting this podcast started. It definitely helps to have friends that are just so chill and like it's like, yeah, man, I just went home and I had like a brewski, did some BMX, just like chill. Because it's like I don't want to give up who I am and like not get after it all the time, but then also like you can't be driving with the blinders on at all times. And it's beautiful, man. It's cool that you went through that. I think I'm still at the start of your little journey, So got the blinders on a little bit.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with temporarily putting the blinders on.
Okay. Yeah.
I think, in order to get to a place where most people aren't, you have to do what most people aren't willing to do. Temporarily, yeah. I mean, things are going to be a little imbalanced. Like, you just have to accept that.
Yeah.
If you really want something.
Yeah.
So it's okay to do that. You just gotta, no matter what, you should be prioritizing rest. But in terms of like other aspects of life, they're going to be imbalanced. You're not going to have time for things. You're going to be obsessed with what you're doing. Yeah. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, you can do that for like 1 to 3 years. And then after that, be like, okay, let's figure out how to optimize other areas of my life.
And did you get to that point, or did you get to a point where you're just like so burnt out? Like,
yeah, it's funny. I think most people are going to, like, the only way they're going to stop is if they get to what you said, to a point of complete burnout. Yeah. And they realize, holy fuck. Yeah. I need to start like really recovering better and taking time away from this, or I'm going to go insane. Yeah. It's hard to, like, if you've been in that state for several years, to like just one day be like, all right, let's slow things down without crashing. I think most people are going to have to crash. Yeah. Unfortunately. Yeah. Yeah, that's the unfortunate reality.
Did you so it was like a gradual process of like kind of slowing the pace a little bit? Like for me, it's like, if I feel like I slow down or like I take a couple days off, I just feel a little unsettled and like inadequate, and I'm just like,
anxious.
Yeah, a little of that, like, okay, I need to go do something, like, and do you have you reached a point to be able to have enough recovery to where you're not, wildly imbalanced, but then also like slowing down enough that, or keeping the pace fast enough to where you don't feel, like I could be doing more?
Yeah. It took me a while to figure it out. It took me this entire past year, even. Like, I feel like I finally started to feel balanced. Once I first got to Austin, no. It took me like a year. So, and what balance looks like is going to be different for everybody.
Yeah.
Some people might need 10 hours of sleep. Some people might only need 7 and they'll feel well rested. Some people can only work a few hours a day, but when they work, they're working fully deep focused, relentlessly. Other people can work all day and still the next day not feel very burnt out.
Mm-hmm.
So, and how much work you can handle also will change over time as your body changes over time.
Yeah.
So that's a gradual process of figuring things out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anyone's gonna fully have that figured out, but
Yeah.
now I definitely feel like my life is, I don't know, everything just feels better.
Yeah.
Even the work I do, even though it's not as much, it just doesn't stress me out as much anymore.
You're like, I guess to compare it to a run, are you in that point where you're just like, for me, it's like when I hit like around 3 miles, I just feel like I'm coasting. And like you get this weird like boost of energy.
Understand what you're saying?
Yeah.
For me, it's not 3 miles.
Yeah.
And I learned that a couple of days ago,
Uh-huh.
6 a.m, when I went on that 4-mile run.
Yeah.
Once I was at 3 miles, I was fucking dying. So that's a good example
Yeah.
of that 3-mile coasting. That coasting level is different for everybody.
Yeah.
Depending on where you're at, how much you can handle.
It seems like it's a muscle too. You just kind of work on it over time, and it's like
I think your ability to put in more hours can be trained like a muscle.
Yeah.
But then there's a limit to it, like muscle building.
Yeah. I'm gonna kind of hit you with a tangent here, but why vegan? Why plant-based? What led you to that?
I think firstly it was mostly for health-based reasons.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of athletes going vegan around that time, and I was like, I want to try this. I had just finished a 3-day fast.
Mm-hmm.
This is like the most typical vegan thing ever. Is usually people fucking fast and they go raw vegan, and then they get deficiencies, and then they go carnivore or some shit. I'm so glad I didn't go down that path.
Yeah.
But I just done that, and then I was like, I want to be vegetarian. I want to try not eating meat. I don't there was things externally that influenced me, but something also was just like, I don't want to eat meat anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I only did that for a couple weeks before I just fully went vegan.
Yeah.
And it was definitely really hard at first, but eventually when you figure things out, my strength increased. I was the biggest and strongest I've ever been.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also felt great too. So that certainly helped me stay on the diet. I mean, if I was feeling like shit every day and I tried everything to figure it out, then obviously I wouldn't try to eat vegan. I wouldn't try to kill myself just to stay vegan for the animals. But I think morally and ethically, it just personally doesn't align with my morals to pay somebody to kill a sentient being.
Yeah.
For me, that is so closely related to the biological structure of humans.
Yeah.
Not as intelligent, maybe, not as self-conscious or self-aware. Pigs have been shown to pretty much be on that level, actually, and we kill them.
Smarter than dogs, right?
Yeah. We slaughter them pretty horribly. But even just the other meats we eat, mostly chicken, cows, anything in that range is like, I've seen the videos. I know I would be contributing to this. Morally, I can't bring myself to do this. There would be, it's something I personally decided. Yeah. It's not moral for me to pay for this.
Yeah, some of those videos, oh my, like,
they're pretty terrible.
I don't want to sound, I'm going to sound like Joe Rogan real quick with like, have you seen that video? But like, there was like a cow that like, or it's in another country. I don't think they do this in the U.S., but they like slit its throat and then they turn it over and just let it bleed out. It's
that's what they do.
It's horrible.
Yeah. I mean, that's the least graphic.
Yeah.
Out of the tasing, the mutilating, putting them in gas chambers and whatnot. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah. So are you like stacking the tofu or a lot of soy or like you kudos to you. You have a great physique.
Thank
Like
you. Thank you.
what does your protein intake look like?
I haven't tracked my macros in a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and I never really did, even when I first started lifting weights. I did it more when I was doing the full day of eating videos because I was required to show all those things. But I try to hit, because I'm around 210 pounds, I try to hit around like 175 grams of protein a day, maybe 200. I think like zero point 0.6 to zero point 0.8 grams per pound of body weight is good for building muscle.
Yep.
I'll eat a lot of carbs because most things that are vegan, that are healthy, have carbs in them.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty high fat too, honestly. My diet every day, well, the soy, since we were talking about that, I'll have probably about 2 to 3 servings of soy a day. And I've done the research, and I mean, anecdotally, it doesn't really matter.
Mm-hmm.
It's not very firm evidence.
Yeah.
Personally, I haven't felt any difference between consuming and not consuming soy. There's been times in my vegan journey where I've not consumed any, and I haven't felt any difference with muscle growth. But if you eat, organic, non-GMO soy that's not super heavily processed, so edamame, like actually whole soybeans, tofu, tempeh, it's not going to affect your hormone levels as a guy. If it did, if it really gave you man boobs, then like many women would start pounding soy to try to get larger breasts. So for people who think that's a possibility, it's not.
Is it just like estrogen levels?
I think it raises estrogen because it has something called phytoestrogens in it.
Okay.
It mimics estrogen-like qualities, but it doesn't really affect your hormones at all in the body because they're plant-based estrogens, and they don't bind like real estrogen does, basically. I mean, I've done a lot of research on it. Vast majority of it agrees with that and shows no difference in hormone levels. Yeah. And then I myself have used as an example. It has a ton of health benefits. Soy does. I mean, it helps. I think with women, risk of breast cancer, it reduces it. It just has tons of nutrients, magnesium, protein. Like that's one of my main sources of protein. Calcium, zinc, I think, just a bunch of minerals and good protein source. So, like I said, the non-GMO organic sources of it, they're really good for you. Yeah. Really big misconception about soy. Okay. It's funny. Yeah. I like to prove people wrong with that one. It's just, it's funny because people just don't expect, I have a fairly deep voice. Yeah. I'm a large person. They're like, there's no way this guy eats soy. Yeah. It's like, thank God. I have all these things naturally. I mean, I worked for my physique, but a lot of people in the vegan community, they'll have like a high-pitched voice or something, and people will attribute it to eating soy. Yeah. And it's so fucking stupid. It's like that same person would be eating meat. They'd sound exactly the same. Yeah. So I like to lead by example with that type of stuff. But if you want to talk like the full diet.
Make a whole episode.
Yeah, I mean, I have tons of full day of eatings on my YouTube channel. Yeah. But generally speaking, it's like first meal is a smoothie bowl, the protein powder, banana, blueberries, yada yada, peanut butter, oats. Second meal is usually like tacos with seitan and tofu and a bunch of vegetables. Yep. And then third meal is usually like potatoes, broccoli, some other protein source like tofu again, or seitan or soy curls or some shit. And then I'll probably have like another scoop of protein. That's what I've started doing recently. I think it's actually helped a lot. Okay. I think I wasn't hitting that like 175 grams of protein before. Once I started getting another scoop of protein, I think it did help my gains. And then throughout the day, I'll have snacks like dark chocolate, nuts, seeds. Be like sprouted bread with hummus.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the diet.
Sounds delicious, dude. Especially the breakfast.
The meals can be really good.
Yeah.
Oh my god, the breakfast I've been having every single day for years.
Nice.
It is my favorite. I look forward to it so much. It tastes so good.
I get that feeling where you have like that great breakfast, and then all the other meals throughout the day just aren't the same.
Yeah.
I love that tweet that you did where this guy was he said he was basically dogging on like vegans and vegan gains, and you just like did the physique photo, and you're like, yeah, if I ate meat, I'd look way better.
Yeah.
That was hilarious, dude. What's it called? This happened last episode too. You get the question and it's on like, and then you start talking, and then it just goes away.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I want to become a better podcast host as well.
Yeah, it's like you got to balance the that's a perfect thing to talk about, your podcast. Like you kind of like, do you find yourself trying to balance like, you know, keeping a question in your mind but also like listening?
Yeah,
and you have
really
to like
hard.
Okay, here's my next question.
Yeah,
but then like if they say something cool, then I'm gonna follow that.
right.
And
then
it's
it
like
goes to a different path, and you might forget that.
yeah, you forget that
I
last question.
suggest just writing down, like immediately when you think of a question to follow up with something they're talking about, just like write it down so it's not in your head anymore.
I like that. Yeah.
Like during the podcast. But still, yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. Yeah, there it is. Uninterrupted focus is the most valuable skill of the 21st century. You said that. I think everyone has a good picture of why, especially with how much we're on our phones and stuff. But how would someone go about developing that skill?
I think it's like a muscle as well. I think willpower and focus can be trained like a muscle to become easier and to be able to do it for longer periods of time.
Yep.
Over time, the more that you do it, but there's not much else you can do to be more focused than to just practice being focused. How to do that is basically you have to remove everything in your environment that is stimulating other than the work you're trying to do. So, I mean, that means turning off your phone or literally locking it inside of a box or some shit, or locking yourself out of all your apps, locking yourself out of all the websites, making it impossible for you to do anything other than either the work you're trying to do or you'd have to stare at the wall. So you need to basically create an environment, purposely create an environment that only allows you to do those two things.
Yep.
So that the most stimulating thing you can do at that point is the work. And you can slowly work your way up to being focused more frequently by setting like longer and longer timers each week, maybe. And you say, okay, first week I'm going to do 1 hour of completely uninterrupted work, or half an hour. Next week, hour and a half or an hour. And then on and on. You work up to more and more. There's going to be an upper limit for everybody. For me, I think I can do like uninterrupted work in flow state for probably about like 3 hours, 3 or 4 hours before I'm like, I need to step away for a while.
And flow state is like just that.
Flow state is that optimal human experience where you're so deeply engrossed in the present moment that like you basically lose your sense of self.
Yeah.
And you are the work is so perfectly challenging but not too challenging, and it's enjoyable that you're just in it. You're just fully in it. And
3 to 4 hours of it. That's impressive, dude.
Yeah. Mostly when editing is when I can do that. Because editing, it's the perfect balance of all those things. Flow state is also something you should optimize around getting into once you remove all those things from your environment.
Yep.
So some tips to do that is you should be doing a task, like I said, that is not too hard, but not too easy. It's like the point where you can see measurable progress in it and you get feedback like immediately. That's why editing or something like coding really induces flow state, because as soon as you start coding, you get feedback once you run the code, or as soon as you start editing, you play it back and you can see what you've edited.
Yeah.
So you need something like that like you see the results in real time, and it's not too challenging to the point where you can't make progress, but it's not too easy to the point where it's like, this is it's just way too easy.
Yep.
Other things that help, a little bit of caffeine can help be a primer to get you into flow state. I don't recommend every single day drinking caffeine, but a little bit of it most days can be helpful in the morning.
I think morning sunlight is a lot more powerful than caffeine, at least for me. Like, I'll get out on the balcony right when I wake up, and it's just like, you get that little cortisol spike. And shout out to Huberman for
Huberman guy
for that. But anyways, no,
you're absolutely right. And that's something that's transformed my sleep as well, is walking. Like no negotiations. I'm walking every morning right when I wake up.
Right when you wake up?
Yes. Okay. Has to happen.
Okay.
It completely changes my mood during the day and how well I sleep at night. That is, everybody should do that, no matter if it's fucking terrible weather or not.
So just to summarize, increasing focus, it's like, just develop it like a muscle and just do progressive overload with it. Yeah. And then try to achieve flow state as much as possible.
Yes.
And then also kind of progressive overload. I don't know if you could actually progressive overload with flow state, but like try to get more and more of it each time you do things.
And try to replicate the same environment and same, like I said, caffeine can be like a prime source, a primer.
Yep.
Where you start to associate taking a sip of caffeine with work. So having something like that improves your focus, that you also pair with your work. It's like every time you take a sip of caffeine, your brain's going to automatically be thinking, like, let's start focusing.
Okay.
And then removing all distractions. Yeah. Locking yourself out of everything, so that the most stimulating thing you can do is the work. You have to do that.
Are these things that you did in your life to increase your focus, or?
Yes. Okay. Yes. And also, I think reading helps. I think reading is, it's not super stimulating, right? It's not like a bunch of colors and you can fucking scroll through it.
Yeah.
And not, you don't know what's gonna come next, usually in a book, like TikToks and Instagram Reels, but you have to just focus on a certain thing and read it and stay intensely focused on it for long periods of time. And meditating also helps as well.
Okay.
Meditation is really helpful.
How often do you meditate?
I meditate every day, twice a day, usually.
Cool. Is that like after your walk in the morning and then before you go to bed, or?
It is usually before my walk.
Okay.
Actually. So that's another thing in the morning routine is I'll meditate. It's only about 15 minutes when I wake up, and then 10, 15 minutes before bed.
Yeah.
But the longer you do it, the easier it would be to stay in focus things outside of meditation.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah, I think we're reaching towards the end. Lou's got to meet with his supervisor for a research project.
Got it.
Yeah, it's got big things. But yeah, thank you so much for being on here.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Thanks for tuning in to this discussion with Cole Hastings. If you want to learn more about Cole, you can check out his website at www.cole-hastings.com. Hastings is spelled Hastings. If you're interested in thoughtful and inspiring self-improvement content, be sure to check out Cole's YouTube channel. Also, stay tuned for the release of his new short film coming soon to his YouTube channel. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to give us a follow to stay in the loop with new content. And if you really enjoyed it, be sure to leave a review. You can check out the podcast website at www.heightsofhumanitypodcast.com. As always, I'm so very grateful for everyone tuning in. See you again soon.